Imagine a man who once had it all: wealth, power, and success. But behind the luxury and success, he lost the most precious things in life: his family, his values, and his sense of purpose. What happens when everything he's built begins to crumble, and the life he knew slips through his fingers? What would you do to redeem yourself, to rebuild your legacy, and to regain what you lost? In this story, follow Makhosi's journey through the darkest moments of his life, where betrayal, greed, and mistakes almost cost him everything. But when his empire is threatened, he must choose. Will he continue down the same destructive path, or will he make the hardest decisions to fight for the people who truly matter? You won't believe the unexpected twists that come next. Stay tuned for what happens next. You won't see it coming. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our next thrilling upload. Makhosi Dlamini was the kind of man everyone in Johannesburg envied. A self-made billionaire. He lived in the penthouse of the tallest skyscraper in Sandton. He owned luxury cars, private jets, and was the CEO of Dlamini Enterprises, a company that dominated the tech world. However, Makhosi's true pride lay in his wife, Lerato, a woman of grace, beauty, and intelligence, and their daughter Thandi, a vibrant 6-year-old who adored her father. Despite his wealth, Makhosi's obsession with power and status consumed him. His evenings were spent at exclusive galas and board meetings, leaving little time for his family. He believed showering them with gifts, like diamond necklaces for Lerato and designer toys for Thandi, was enough to show his love. Lerato often tried to talk to him about their dwindling connection, but Makhosi brushed her off, saying, "I'm building a legacy for us." One fateful evening, at a lavish event hosted by a rival billionaire, Makhosi met Sindasio, a young, ambitious socialite with a hunger for fame. Intrigued by her boldness and charm, Makhosi began to spend more time with her under the guise of business meetings. Sindasio, however, had her sights set on more than just Makhosi's company. She wanted his throne. Lerato noticed the change immediately. Makhosi had become distant, and whispers of his late-night business meetings reached her through mutual friends. Her once radiant smile began to fade, but she remained quiet, hoping it was just a phase. Makhosi's relationship with Sindasio quickly escalated. He began ignoring Lerato's calls and skipping family dinners. On Thandi's 7th birthday, he arrived 3 hours late, reeking of expensive perfume that Lerato didn't own. Thandi, heartbroken, asked, "Daddy, do you not love us anymore?" His excuse was predictable. "Daddy's busy working to make our lives better." In the office, things were no better. Rumors of Sindasio's involvement with Makhosi spread, creating tension among the board members. His closest advisor, Zama, confronted him privately. "Makhosi, you're playing a dangerous game. If the media catches wind of this, your empire could crumble." Makhosi smirked and replied, "I built this empire. Nobody can touch me." Meanwhile, Lerato found solace in Thandi's innocence, but the emotional strain became unbearable. Late one night, she stumbled upon Makhosi's phone, left carelessly on the kitchen counter. Curiosity gave way to dread as she read the flurry of messages between him and Sindasio. "When will you leave her?" one text read, followed by Makhosi's reply, "Soon. Be patient." The discovery shattered Lerato. That night, she packed her bags and took Thandi to her parents' modest home in Soweto. She left a simple note on the kitchen counter: "When you decide what truly matters, you'll know where to find us." Makhosi returned home to find the penthouse eerily silent. The absence of Thandi's laughter and Lerato's comforting presence struck him like a punch to the gut. But instead of remorse, his arrogance flared. "If she wants to leave, let her," he muttered, pouring himself a glass of the finest whiskey. He convinced himself that Lerato would come crawling back once she saw what life without luxury looked like. Sindasio, however, seized the opportunity. She moved into Makhosi's life, and his penthouse, within days. She replaced Lerato's warmth with extravagance, hosting wild parties that turned his once cozy home into a chaotic display of excess. But as the days turned into weeks, Makhosi began to feel the weight of his choices. Makhosi initially basked in his newfound freedom with Sindasayo. The days were filled with extravagant shopping sprees, elite parties, and private jets to exotic locations. The tabloids couldn't get enough of the power couple, and Sindasayo made sure to soak up the attention. Yet, amidst the glitter and glamour, something inside Makhosi began to crack. At his office, the atmosphere had shifted. Meetings became tense, and longtime employees whispered behind closed doors. Zama, his trusted advisor, grew colder, no longer offering counsel unless directly asked. "You're slipping, Makhosi," Zama said one day. "The board is watching, and so are the stakeholders. This Sindasayo, she's more trouble than she's worth." Makhosi dismissed him with a wave. "I'm the face of this empire. No one will dare challenge me." But deep down he felt a pang of doubt. Meanwhile, Lerato and Thandi adjusted to their simpler life in Soweto. At first, Thandi struggled to adapt to a smaller house and public school, but Lerato's love and resilience carried them through. Lerato found work as a community health worker, and though her pay was modest, her spirit flourished. Thandi, seeing her mother's strength, began to thrive in her own way, excelling in school and making new friends. But Makhosi wasn't entirely absent from their minds. Thandi often asked Mama, "Do you think Daddy misses us?" Lerato would respond softly, "He'll realize what he's lost one day." Makhosi, however, found that the void left by his family couldn't be filled with Sindasayo's charm. She quickly revealed a more manipulative side. She demanded more jewelry, more vacations, more control over his life. The wild parties she hosted became chaotic, with guests breaking valuable antiques and leaving the penthouse in disarray. One night, after yet another lavish gathering, Makhosi sat alone on the balcony of his penthouse, looking out over the city lights. The silence of the night contrasted sharply with the emptiness he felt inside. He thought about Lerato's laugh and Thandi's hugs, things he had once taken for granted. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his old family photos, but pride kept him from reaching out. The first cracks in Makhosi's empire became public when a major investor pulled out of a lucrative deal, citing ethical concerns. Rumors swirled that Sindasayo had been caught on camera berating employees at a corporate event. This, combined with Makhosi's erratic behavior, led to a drop in the company's stock price. In a heated board meeting, Zama didn't hold back. "Makhosi, this isn't just about you anymore. Your decisions are dragging us down." The room fell silent as Makhosi, for the first time, had no response. The man who once commanded rooms with confidence now looked small and unsure. Meanwhile, Sindasayo began to distance herself. With the media turning against Makhosi, she saw her golden opportunity slipping away. Late one night, Makhosi returned to the penthouse to find it eerily empty. Sindasayo had left, taking with her the expensive gifts he'd lavished on her and leaving behind only a note. "You can't hold on to anyone or anything. Not your family and now not me. Goodbye." Makhosi stared at the note, his hands trembling. For the first time, the weight of his arrogance and greed came crashing down. He was alone, truly painfully alone. At her parents' home, Lerato received word of Makhosi's troubles through a mutual friend. Though she felt a twinge of sadness for the man she once loved, she reminded herself that she and Thandi had found peace away from his chaos. Still, a part of her wondered if Makhosi would ever learn from his mistakes. Makhosi, on the other hand, knew he couldn't go on like this. His fortune was slipping through his fingers, and his reputation was in tatters. He realized the only way forward was to face the consequences of his actions, and perhaps seek the forgiveness of the family he had abandoned. The weight of Makhosi's failures bore down on him like a relentless storm. Once at the pinnacle of Johannesburg's elite, he was now a shadow of his former self. The board had given him an ultimatum: clean up the company's image or face a forced resignation. But the fallout wasn't confined to his professional life. The echoes of his personal decisions rang louder. One evening, as he sat in the now empty penthouse, He made a decision. It was time to face the people he had wronged the most, Lerato and Thandi. He had avoided thinking about them for months, convincing himself that material wealth could replace their presence. But in their absence, he realized how wrong he had been. Makhosi's driver took him to Soweto. As he navigated the bustling streets of the township, he was struck by the simplicity of life here compared to the hollow extravagance he had surrounded himself with. He stopped in front of Lerato's modest home, his heart pounding. For a man who had stood confidently before presidents and billionaires, facing his wife and child was his greatest challenge yet. Lerato heard the knock at her door and froze. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened it to see Makhosi, dressed in a tailored suit but looking disheveled and exhausted, she didn't know what to say. Before she could speak, Thandi appeared behind her and exclaimed, "Daddy." She ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. Makhosi hugged his daughter tightly, tears streaming down his face. "I missed you so much, Thandi," he whispered. Lerato, however, stood firm. "Why are you here, Makhosi?" she asked coldly, crossing her arms. She had spent months rebuilding her life and wasn't sure she was ready for the chaos Makhosi brought with him. "I came to apologize," Makhosi said, his voice trembling. "I was selfish, arrogant, and blind to what truly matters. I lost everything because I thought I could replace love with power." Lerato sighed, her emotions conflicting. On one hand, she could see the sincerity in his eyes. On the other, the wounds he had inflicted were still raw. "Words are easy, Makhosi. Actions are what matter." Makhosi spent the next several weeks trying to prove he was a changed man. He started small, attending Thandi's school events, something he had always dismissed as unimportant. He also made an effort to support Lerato, offering to pay off the debts she had incurred during their separation. However, Lerato refused his money. "I don't need your wealth," she said. "I need consistency." Realizing that he couldn't buy his way back into their lives, Makhosi began volunteering at the local community center, a place Lerato frequented. At first, his presence drew skepticism. What was a billionaire doing in Soweto, stacking boxes of supplies and mentoring underprivileged kids? But as the weeks turned into months, people began to see a genuine change in him. Meanwhile, Makhosi's efforts to salvage his company bore fruit. He publicly acknowledged his mistakes, both in his personal life and in leadership. With Zama's help, he spearheaded initiatives to rebuild trust within the company. He also announced a new foundation aimed at supporting underprivileged communities in Johannesburg, a project inspired by his time in Soweto. The media, initially skeptical, began to turn their narrative around. Headlines shifted from scandal to redemption, painting Makhosi as a man who had lost everything but fought to rebuild himself. One evening, as he walked Lerato and Thandi home from a community event, Makhosi turned to Lerato. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for a second chance, not just as Thandi's father but as your husband." Lerato looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. "Makhosi, second chances aren't given, they're earned. But I can see you're trying. Time will tell if you truly mean it." Makhosi nodded, understanding that rebuilding their trust would take more than words. As he held Thandi's hand, he felt a sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. Months passed, and Makhosi's efforts to reintegrate into Lerato and Thandi's lives began to show promise. Thandi had fully embraced her father's presence, often boasting to her friends about his visits. Makhosi, who had once been too consumed by business to notice the small joys of fatherhood, now cherished every moment with her daughter. However, while Thandi's love came easily, Lerato remained guarded. One evening, Makhosi arrived at Lerato's home unannounced. He carried a bouquet of her favorite flowers and a heartfelt letter apologizing for every moment of pain he had caused. "Lerato," he began, "I know I hurt you deeply, and I don't expect forgiveness overnight. But I'm here to fight for you, for us." Lerato hesitated, her resolve wavering. She had watched Makhosi change in many ways, but the scars he left ran deep. "Makhosi," she said softly, Actions speak louder than words. Keep proving it to me. Makhosi nodded. He understood her doubts and knew that rebuilding trust was a marathon, not a sprint. Yet, as he walked away that night, he couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling of inadequacy. What if his efforts were never enough? Makhosi's rise back to prominence brought with it old temptations. As his company stabilized, powerful figures from his past began re-entering his orbit, including Ayanda, a shrewd businesswoman he had worked with years ago. Ayanda, sensing an opportunity, began to insinuate herself into Makhosi's life, offering advice and partnership deals that could catapult his company to even greater heights. Though Makhosi kept their interactions professional, Ayanda's charm and confidence reminded him of the life he had left behind. During a business dinner, Ayanda leaned in and said, "Makhosi, a man like you deserves the world. Don't settle for less." Her words lingered in his mind, planting seeds of doubt about the life he was building. Lerato, ever perceptive, noticed the subtle shifts in Makhosi's demeanor. He was distracted during conversations and missed 2 of Thandi's school events, claiming urgent work commitments. Though she didn't voice her concerns immediately, her instincts told her something was amiss. One evening, Lerato decided to confront him. "Makhosi, is everything okay? You've been distant lately." Makhosi, caught off guard, stumbled over his words. "It's just work, Lerato. Things are demanding right now." Lerato studied his face, searching for signs of dishonesty. "I've seen this pattern before, Makhosi. Don't let history repeat itself." Makhosi left Lerato's home that night feeling conflicted. He drove aimlessly through the city, reflecting on her words. He knew she was right. He was teetering on the edge of old habits. The allure of his former life was strong, but the thought of losing Lerato and Thandi again terrified him. The next day, Makhosi made a bold move. He terminated his partnership with Ayanda, despite the potential financial losses. In a meeting with his board, he stated firmly, "I've built this company on my own integrity, and I won't compromise that for short-term gains." Though the decision was met with mixed reactions, it marked a significant step in Makhosi's journey toward redemption. Later that evening, Makhosi visited Lerato with Thandi. He brought no gifts, no grand gestures, only an open heart. "Lerato," he said, "I've made mistakes, but I'm trying to do better every day. You and Thandi are my world, and I won't let anything jeopardize that again." Lerato looked at him, her defenses softening ever so slightly. "Makhosi, I've seen you change, but the road to redemption isn't a straight line. Keep walking it." Makhosi nodded, realizing that true reconciliation required patience and unwavering commitment. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild not just his empire but his family as well. Makhosi sat in his office, staring at the Johannesburg skyline. The city, with its bustling streets and glowing lights, reflected the duality of his life, bright on the outside but burdened by shadows within. His decision to cut ties with Ayanda had felt like a victory, but it came at a cost. The whispers among business associates and the subtle shifts in board dynamics left him questioning whether he had truly regained control of his life. One morning, as Makhosi prepared for a meeting, his assistant, Cabello, knocked hesitantly. "Sir, I thought you should see this," Cabello said, placing a tabloid on his desk. The headline screamed, "Makhosi's wide caught in scandalous business feud with former partner Ayanda." Makhosi's heart sank as he read the article. Ayanda had accused him of breaching a lucrative deal, painting him as untrustworthy and vindictive. Though the claims were baseless, the damage to his reputation was undeniable. The fallout was swift. Clients began pulling out of contracts, and social media buzzed with speculation about Makhosi's character. Despite his best efforts, the narrative was slipping from his control. Meanwhile, Lerato noticed the strain on Makhosi during his visits. His once confident demeanor now carried traces of vulnerability. One evening, as he sat quietly while Thandi played, Lerato broke the silence. "Makhosi, you've been distant again. Is it the company? She asked. Makhosi hesitated, unsure if he should burden her with his troubles. But looking into her eyes, he realized that trust required transparency. It's Ayanda, he admitted. She's trying to ruin everything I've rebuilt. Lerato frowned. This is what I was afraid of. You need to focus on what truly matters, Makhosi. Let go of the need to control everything. Her words struck a chord. 4 years, Makhosi had defined himself by his business success, but Lerato's reminder grounded him. It wasn't about proving his worth to the world. It was about earning back the love and trust of the two people who mattered most. The next day, Makhosi held a press conference. Dressed in a simple suit, he stood before a crowd of reporters and cameras. I've made mistakes, he began, both in my personal and professional life. But I'm here to say that I'm not the man I once was. To Ayanda and others I've wronged, I offer my apology. My focus now is on building a legacy rooted in integrity. The speech was met with mixed reactions. Some admired his humility, while others dismissed it as damage control. But for Makhosi, it was a cathartic moment, a step toward letting go of the shadows of his past. That evening, as Makhosi returned to his penthouse, he found Lerato and Thandi waiting for him. Thandi ran to him, clutching a drawing she had made of their family. Daddy, look. It's us, she exclaimed, her eyes shining with joy. Makhosi knelt down, holding the drawing as if it were the most precious artifact in the world. It's beautiful, Thandi, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Lerato watched the interaction, her heart softening. We wanted to surprise you, she said. Thandi insisted we come. Makhosi looked at her, gratitude filling his eyes. Thank you, Lerato. I don't deserve this kindness, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to. That night, over a simple dinner, the three of them laughed and talked like a family again. For the first time in years, Makhosi felt a sense of peace. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he knew he wasn't walking it alone. As Lerato tucked Thandi into bed, Makhosi reflected on his journey. His wealth and power had once been his identity, but now he realized that love and redemption were far more valuable. He vowed to never lose sight of that truth again. Makhosi woke to the sound of laughter echoing through his penthouse. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the warmth of sunlight streaming through the large windows. He followed the sound to the living room, where Thandi was chasing her reflection on the glossy marble floor, and Lerato was sipping coffee, her face calm and radiant. For the first time in years, his home felt like more than just a structure. Felt alive. The once sterile luxury now carried a heartbeat. Good morning, Makhosi greeted, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Daddy! Thandi squealed, running into his arms. Someone's in a great mood, Makhosi said, hoisting her up. Lerato looked up from her coffee. She wanted to surprise you with breakfast. Though I think she ate most of the ingredients before we started. Thandi giggled, her innocence shining through. It's because I love you, Daddy. Makhosi felt a lump in his throat. I love you too, Princess, he whispered. While the morning was filled with joy, Makhosi's mind drifted to the unresolved tension with Ayanda. Though his public apology had eased some of the backlash, whispers of betrayal still lingered in business circles. Lerato noticed the cloud over his expression as they sat down for breakfast. What's bothering you? She asked. Makhosi hesitated. Ayanda. She's not done trying to sabotage me. Lerato leaned forward. Makhosi, you've apologized and taken responsibility. If she continues this path, it's a reflection of her, not you. Focus on what you can control, like your family. Her words grounded him. 4 years, he had been chasing perfection in the wrong places. Now it was time to redirect that energy toward his personal life. Thank you for staying with us through this captivating journey of love, redemption, and second chances. Makhosi's story reminds us that it's never too late to change, to fight for what truly matters, and to leave a lasting legacy. We hope you found this story as inspiring as we did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. What part of Makhosi's journey resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you think someone else could learn from this story, please share the video. Stay tuned for more intriguing and uplifting tales. Until next time, take care.